perhaps. Well, perfect. Finally, we got up and running. Welcome, everybody, to Grove Sessions. My name is Rick Coughlin. I am the CEO and co-founder of Grove Studios. Here with Max Price, as
What's
always.
up?
Head of social media and marketing.
Yeah.
And we are here with a very special guest.
Wow.
He's so humble, but we appreciate that. But we're here with John Bommarito, formerly of 107.1.
Yeah.
WHFR.
Another non-commercial radio station in the Metro Detroit area. Yeah. Out at Henry Ford Community College.
Yeah. We're really honored that you're here, that you took the time to, come talk to us.
My pleasure.
Today. Appreciate that. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're going to roll anyway.
I told you I'm the curse here. It's okay.
No. I think I might be actually the curse.
What?
I've been rather klutzy today, honestly. Yeah.
Come on, Rick.
Yep. It happens. If you saw my toes, you'd see how many times I stub my toe in a day. I should wear steel-toed shoes all the time. That's a good thing.
I see his toes.
Definitely. You can't see my toes out there, but...
Thank God.
It's a true story. Very, very, very true. So yeah, this is kind of an exciting day. I think we've been talking about doing some stuff right here in the podcast room. We're finally in the podcast room. Yeah. You're a radio professional, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, not going to lie, doing an interview with a radio professional because,
Use air quotes.
We've been professional. Well, we've been doing this for about 6 months, and you have been doing radio for how long?
Well, almost 15 years at 107.1, and there was overlapping 10 years at WHFR, so it probably totaled 20-ish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a volunteer thing for a long time until I could figure out how to get paid for it, and then I got paid for it, and I was still volunteering because no one cared that I was doing both at the same time. Dearborn's far enough away from Ann Arbor that I could go do my Sunday show there, and then I could continue doing my things in Ann Arbor as well. For a while, it worked. It just got to be a lot of driving, and I thought I would cut the cord on the phone.
Now, you had a show at WHFR that you've recently sort of renewed the name, bringing it back. Yeah, what was the name of that again?
Acoustic Alternatives was the name of the show I used to do on WHFR. It was a 2 or 3 hour, depending on what phase of the 10 years. I ended up being a 3-hour show on a Sunday there from basically 10 to 1. And much like what I used to do at 107.1 on the Sunday brunch, I would bring in guests and I would play acoustic-based music. And there was a little bit broader what I could do on that show because it's a non-commercial college radio station, and you have a touch more freedom when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah,
and
imagine.
Kind of branded it as a acoustic singer-songwriter, folk, and Celtic too, throwing in a little bit of
nice.
That kind of slightly worldly, not just sticking to the singer-songwriter stuff. What I was doing at 107.1 was a little bit more of a commercial version of that same type of show, trying to appeal to people who would be fans of the Ark or the small venues like the Trinity House in Livonia, people that would go see singer-songwriters and that ilk.
Great venues.
Those are great venues. That's my favorite kind of a place to see a show, a listening room.
Yeah.
Boy, those listening rooms are really struggling right now. If you guys are following what's going on out there. All the small venues, even the Blind Pig, those kinds of venues where you get to see good rock shows and intimate performances and see the performer's eyes.
Yeah.
Not so worried about the big venues shutting down on us, but I sure am worried about those small ones right now.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're grateful, to be here and to be able to, kind of operate as a small venue, but also... have other revenue streams that can help keep us going during this time, because it would be extremely hard as a venue, especially like a venue that can't operate outside at all, or a venue that doesn't have any space to do, socially distanced performances and stuff like that. We're extremely fortunate to have been able to throw some socially distanced, performances outside with small crowds and stuff like that.
In your parking lot,
Yeah, absolutely, right out there in the courtyard. And it's been absolutely surreal being a part of live music performances during this time.
Pandemic and live performances haven't gone well. I've had a chance to see a few. A friend of mine has a barn concert series where he has it in his barn and spreads it out. Only invites 20 people, but all the money goes to the performer. So you can actually enjoy live music in somebody's barn house.
Yeah. It's possible, right? And that's along the same lines that we've been doing. Is the 25. There's a 25 people cap.
It feels exclusive. Like it's like, wow, I'm a part of this. And that's something that we have actually. because of the exclusivity, because of the only like certain amount of tickets that you can sell, I mean, it kind of raises the value of the experience a little bit, So I think, it's hard and it sucks, but I think for a long time in this area, like ticket prices and stuff have been super, super cheap, and so this kind of forces that to grow a little bit, and to make it even possible, because there's absolutely no way you can throw a show with only 25 people there and charge $5 a ticket and come out
work.
even. You know what I mean? There's absolutely no way.
Not sustainable at all.
No.
I hope that these venues can find a way. Even I use the Arc as my example because I spent a lot of time there in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
400 seats. They can't, obviously, with social distancing, fill 400 seats legally yet.
Right.
So what if they could reduce the capacity to, 100? Even that, I'm not sure we can do. But
right.
Let's look at the financial part of that. Like, how do they stay alive? Because they got to pay the performer. The performer might be coming from Colorado or wherever to get
Exactly.
there. So this is affecting the venues. This is affecting the performers. And I mean, I'm friends with a lot of performers. I'm big fans of these venues, and I've established friendships with these venues over the years. And I'm hurting for my friends, really.
Yeah.
People who try to make a living making music that reaches my soul, and it's a struggle to watch them online. Like through these concerts, and you wonder, is anybody watching? Are they tipping? Are they?
Yeah.
Do they realize that this is art? This is
we're
gonna lose this.
What's a real challenge too, like to even monetize online. I mean, we've been doing it to some degree, and there's some platforms that support it, but I think we learned really quickly that it's not simple. There's not a simple way, and often, to some degree, people are carrying their phones around, but that's clearly not the optimal way to be listening to a full-blown concert. I mean,
I won't do it.
You want to put it up on a big screen. You want to have some nice speakers. You want to experience it, and the recording quality on the other end has got to be good. We did for my wife's birthday, we watched Ani DeFranco event, and we were super excited. But they did it through Zoom, which we've experienced. We went down that route.
Yep.
And the quality was there. It was great because it's Ani DeFranco, but the quality of
Zoom
the sound
quality.
it was the Zoom quality sound.
I'm surprised she didn't go a better route. I've seen smaller indie artists do better quality shows.
For sure. For sure.
Zoom didn't go a better route, like making it easier to.
They could have capitalized.
They
on
really
that,
could have capitalized. It must just be hard to do. I was just wondering really quick though. We aren't live on Grove's main page. I was wondering if you could throw that on there. We are live in the group though, and everything's all good. But yeah, I mean, what I'm wondering to you is, I mean, you mentioned like the donation aspect of these live performances, and that kind of worked out in the beginning. You know what I mean? I know a lot of bands, and even us, we've made hundreds of dollars through donations with an event. But, at this point, for me, it kind of feels a little bit, like sitting on the side of the road with a sign, asking for money, when. And what is your opinion on like live stream ticketing? Because I know that a lot of live stream stuff is free right now, but the thing about tickets and the way that I see it is, if you can actually sell a ticket to your fan, they're going to be much more likely to come and actually watch the performance as well. You know what I mean? And that actually provides you with a sustainable way of making sales and selling directly to your fans that actually want to see your performance, as opposed to just hoping that some people out there in the internet universe are going to throw a donation your way. And there's no reason why you still can't throw up a donation link and charge live stream tickets, So, I mean, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is, think about it as an artist coming through town. If it's not a local artist, I mean, I could use some great musicians locally who are doing regular things. May Earlywine, one of the best, does something every Monday.
Right.
Now, if May was playing the Arc every Monday, would I go every Monday? Probably not. I would go as often as I could because I love to see her shows. But giving me a chance to see it every Monday lets me pick, I'll watch it this weekend, I'll give her some money. If you think about a national touring artist like an Ani DeFranco, how often does she come to Ann Arbor? Maybe once a year.
Yeah.
So if she does a show every month, are you going to watch every month, or are you going to go once?
Right.
So
that's a good point.
Let's put the value on that as a viewer. Like, how big of a fan are you? Are you going to watch it every month, or are you just going to go, I just saw that. It's going to be the same show. It's really tough to figure out as a musician, I bet, which is the better route. tease them with once in a while,
Yeah.
or do it every week so they have an opportunity to see you.
Yeah.
Stagger the times, I think, is a better suggestion to these people, because
Yeah.
I'm not always available at 7 o'clock on a Monday night. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to watch your show, but that's not always a good time for me.
No doubt.
Nor is 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, which is when I might actually be sitting at a show, but I'm less likely to sit in front of my computer at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So it's a really difficult model to really grasp how it's going to work best for everybody. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of it in terms of, if they were coming to my town, would I make time to go see the show?
Mm-hmm.
Much more likely, yes. I would physically go see the show. Will I watch it at home? I will if I can.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it available to watch later, and if I definitely try to give money to them. Even if I'm unemployed, I'm still collecting some unemployment money, and they are probably not collecting unemployment money. The gig economy thing sort of worked out for people, but I want to make sure that art continues. So I will give money to watch these shows myself. So I think it's good that they're doing it. Spreading them out is probably a good idea too.
Yeah.
It's such a tough thing.
It is.
What do you guys think about the oversaturation? Like, let's think
Yeah.
about.
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I think some artists, the artists that are able to, because I've seen some artists have success with going live every day, but these artists are artists that are so technically sound and so amazing that they literally say, give me songs to cover, and then they just cover every single song that everyone wants them to sing.
Right.
And it's like, okay, at that point you are adding value every day. You're not performing the same exact music every day.
Yeah.
But if you're going to perform a group of 5 or 10 songs, should you perform those same songs every week? Probably not, but I do also see the value in things like podcasting, where you are getting in front of your, fan base for an extended period of time on a weekly basis, and really giving them that deep look into, what you're doing, what you're about, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think that's a good point too. I was like just looking it up just now because I remember this article about this band in Connecticut called Goose, and they had a relatively large following. They'd done some touring. I think they're a jam band.
Sound like it.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? It's got to be a jam band. But they did a thing where, they got, 1,500 people to pay about $15 for like an advanced single day pass. And they did this thing where they have like bingo boards and a roller, and they do a meet and greet, and they're doing merchandise. I mean, it's like almost like they kind of created this variety show kind of thing. One day during the week, like, I don't know, it was like the bass player or something was in his kitchen, and he was, he's a cook, so he's good at cooking, and he did a cooking show, and people like wanted to see him cook. It's like they got really
Get
creative with it. And they said, some nights they had around 4,000 people who paid to watch it.
Wow.
But they were very interactive, right? It wasn't just them performing. So I think like maybe it's the extra, finding ways to give that extra value, but it just depends on the artist and the group.
I think value is so much more important online. You know what I mean? Because if you're and just engagement, like having an engaging performance, because if you're not having an engaging performance, it's so much easier for someone to just, close the app on their phone and go about their day, as opposed to if you're actually, at a show, they might become uninterested, but at least they're there at the bar. They're probably not going to go home, and they might leave if they really hate you. You know what I mean?
But they probably wouldn't have paid to come see you in the first place.
And it's a lot. It's just so much easier for someone to close your video on your phone. So you have to, because one thing I notice all the time is like these performers, they'll be performing and they'll have a bunch of people watching, 20, 30 people watching, and then they stop performing and start talking, and like 10 people drop off instantly every single time. You know what I mean?
I can listen to the album at home, but I can't get the conversations. I like the conversations myself.
Yeah.
But let's look at another part of this equation. Too much screen time. I mean, we're all working from our computers already.
Yeah.
Some of us are working virtually, and I mean, it's all this the screen time, and then you're expecting us to watch you on the screen again.
Yeah.
I want to experience you in front of me. I want you to be able to say, "Oh, there's John. Hey, good to see you." I mean,
that's a good point.
I think they're missing it just as much as we are, but. There's so many shows that pop up in my Facebook feed. Watch this. I want to. Like right now, I would be watching Willie Porter, a great guitar player from the Minnesota area that I would love to watch a show tonight. But I'm here with you guys, and it's okay because I can watch it later if I want to.
Right.
We'll do another one next week or whatever. But, Enough screen time. Thank you. Thanks for giving me some FaceTime, guys.
Right.
Nice to see some actual faces.
It is nice to see
absolutely.
actual faces.
And that's why, I mean, we did this over Zoom for a long time, and we did it over a bunch of things, and we still might in the future, just because, you know, different people have different comfortability levels of, you know, coming into the studio and stuff. But, you know, we can tell you it's so much, and I'm sure you know from being in radio and stuff, it's so much different being face to face with someone and just really being able to like build off each other's energy and just, you know, be in the same room. And also, I mean, the audio quality and everything is just night and day. Like running it through this as opposed to just trusting someone else's audio, you know, skills and stuff is definitely way better, you know?
Yeah. And we can certainly have somebody call in through here, but it's still going to be
fair.
It's going to be a phone call still.
Yeah.
So
fair quality. Phone is phone.
It is. It is.
I've avoided doing phone interviews for most of my career because they just don't sound good.
Yeah, I agree.
I got to do Sarah McLachlan on a phone interview once. I wouldn't turn that down again.
No. Well, and speaking of that, I mean, that's actually kind of part of, we wanted to hear a little bit about some of the people that you've interviewed and you met, but like even before that, I think we wanted to kind of go back a little bit, you know, after 20 years and, you know, working in radio, you know, was it always about music going into it, or was there a different plan? Like how did music first come into your life? Like what made you you know, you're a rabid music fan, I think. So
I'm a rabid.
Rabid.
Yeah.
I don't know. That word just popped out.
That's good. No, it's good. It's probably accurate.
Yeah.
So let's go all the way back to like 10th grade, shall we?
That's cool. I like that.
I was the fourth of four kids, and all of my siblings played something: guitar, drum, flute.
Yeah.
I'm actually the only one in my family who never played an instrument, which is kind of funny because I'm the only one doing anything with the music industry.
How interesting.
But there was always music on. My dad still, if you go over his house, there's always music on. My mom would always have music on. She played piano and didn't sing terribly well, but she sang, and that's okay. There was always that in the house.
That's cool.
What kind of music did they like to listen to?
I can mostly remember the trips in the big white Chrysler LeBaron with my mom and the 8-track player.
Yeah.
So the 8-track player in that car had Simon & Garfunkel's greatest hits, Neil Diamond's greatest hits, John Denver's greatest hits, Sound of Music soundtrack, Fiddler on the Roof soundtrack. I mean, just that kind of stuff.
Classics.
Yeah, and I can't think of Simon & Garfunkel without thinking of that car and riding with them.
Yeah.
But you know, everyone else had their own little musical taste too. Like my oldest sister, 6 years older than me, and was in the room next to me, and I could hear Elton John and Barry Manilow coming through the walls.
Nice.
And then my brother would play drums in the basement to things like Van Halen or the Blues Brothers or Toto.
Yeah.
I was coming from the basement, and then my sister also in the next room was Prince and Kenny Loggins and top 40 stuff. And I would get up every Sunday morning and listen to America's Top 40 with Casey Kasem because I was studying. I didn't know I was doing it, but adding to my music knowledge.
Yeah.
So 10th grade, you know, you maybe remember this, I don't know, but they kind of try to force you to pick a career path at that point. Like, you're going to go to college soon. What are you going to do?
Right.
I don't know. I lived in Warren.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I lived in Warren, and Warren at Cousino High School has a radio station. And I used to listen to that from time to time. Well, that'd be fun. So my mom took me over there because I wasn't driving yet. Strange that I still remember the guy's name that ran the station that many years ago.
Wow.
Charles Lampinen was his name.
Huh.
And I remember speaking to him about my interest in being part of it. Oh, we'd love to have you, blah, blah, blah. We talked for 15 minutes. So which school do you go to? Well, I go to Warren Woods Tower. Oh, well, that's not in the school district. I'm sorry, you can't be part of this program.
Oh.
You know, it's like, there's my dream, and squish. But then he tells me about Specs Howard and, you know, the whole, that's where people go that want to be in radio. You should look into that. Okay, so I look into it, and I realize how expensive it is and how narrow of the education is. If I'm really not sure that's what I want to do, is that really a good path?
Sure.
And they talk about job placement, and, you know, I lived here in Michigan. I didn't want to live here. I wanted to work in this area, and the chances of getting a Detroit area job, pretty slim.
Yeah.
So I didn't follow that path. I did not go to Specs Howard. I instead, right out of high school, started working at a record store, which, in addition to my American Top 40 education, I was getting a new education in a record store.
Oh, I bet.
Came in as a top 40 kid, started working with a guy who turned me on to Dire Straits and Dave Edmunds and Nick Lowe and the Stray Cats. And like okay, and then we started hiring people. I was his first ever employee, 2-year-old store. And as we got more employees, I started absorbing their music tastes. And I learned about the Cocteau Twins and the Damned and the Clash and ska music and Louis Jordan. And it's like all of these things came from the people I worked with.
Education. I love it.
Right. And then, of course, there were the customers. And then you start equating with X equals I like X, N, Y, and Z. Oh, okay. That helped me as a mobile disc jockey as well. When people would ask for songs as I was DJing weddings, I would go, "Oh, if you like that, you're probably going to like this."
Right.
And it helped me draw the line. So I learned the record store experience was essential to being who I am today. Because without that, I'm probably still a top 40 kid.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, I could relate to that in a lot of ways. Working retail at Guitar Center kind of changed my view of the music world in that way. So
For sure. So college. College was, I was still going to college. I was working full time at the record store, but also going to Oakland University. Now, Oakland actually has a radio station that's an FM signal now, but when I was there, it was a downstairs to upstairs, maybe in the dorm station, very small watts.
Yeah.
And I did it, but it never really counts as part of my experience in radio because I wasn't reaching anybody, right? It was just like playing records for myself.
Right.
It was fun, but I remember some specific things about it. I remember the Proclaimers' second album. I was already playing their first album in the record store. The second album was the one that made them well known.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until Benny and June, the movie, included 500 Miles in the soundtrack 4 years after the release of Sunshine on Leith that became a hit. But I was playing it regularly, both in the radio station and at the record store.
Wow.
So I specifically remember going, "That's old. How is that becoming a hit now?" That whole.
It's funny how that happens.
It does.
Yeah.
It does make a funny thing. But I didn't get the radio education while I was at Oakland University. I was doing business and communications there just to kind of get a degree. But I ended up finishing unusually at a community college near where I was growing up at Macomb Community College.
Mm-hmm.
So I was enjoying my job at the record store. I was getting a good education there in a different way. I was a manager and a head buyer, and I thought I'm going to be fine. I've got this good foundation. But it turns out in my life, I should have continued and finished my college then, but I didn't. It's okay because it leads me to where I'm at.
That's right.
So from the record store, I started working for one of the suppliers that I was buying from. I was the manager and head buyer when I left, and one of my suppliers in Miami was hiring. Well, actually, one of my suppliers in Connecticut was hiring too, and I interviewed with both. I chose Miami because I thought more people would come visit me.
That was a good call.
Yeah.
Kind of worked out okay.
Miami's nice.
Yeah, it is kind of nice.
Nicer than Connecticut, probably, for sure.
Yeah, I only visited the one time.
I've only been in Connecticut once, too.
Yeah.
Connecticut doesn't ever sound super exciting to me, but Miami is. I've been to Miami. And
There's some energy
down there in Wynwood, the Wynwood Walls.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
It's been so long.
Oh, you got to go back and check it out someday.
I haven't been in a really long time, but
Very cool.
so I was down there for about 16 months or so, and that company was a company that sold imported CDs and other music to record stores like the one I used to buy from all over the U.S., and I was their head buyer, so I was buying from all over the world, and I had an assistant, and we would take turns because, there's different time zones, so I'm like, okay, I'll be in charge of Japan, Germany, and whatever. We just kind of like trade. When I was in charge of Canada, I remember that at the record store, we used to trade with a store in Windsor called Dr. Disc. If you've ever been to Dr. Disc in Windsor, they at the time had a small chain throughout Ontario. So there's about 5 stores throughout Ontario. And I did not like the supplier we had in Miami for our Canadian goods. He just wasn't very friendly, which is odd for a Canadian. But they were all
Super
friendly.
odd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His information wasn't very good, and I thought we could do better. So I called up my old friends at the Dr. Disc in Windsor and said, "Hey, who do you guys use for a vendor?" "Well, why don't we try to be your vendor?" "Okay, sure, why not?" And it ended up working out really nicely because they did a great job. And so the owner in London, Ontario, I was having a conversation with him about 2 months after we were starting using them. And I said, "Andrew, you're doing really, really well at this. I'm really, really happy with the service. Have you thought about doing it on a larger scale?" And he said, "I actually have thought about doing it on a larger scale, but I don't have anybody to run it." I raised my hand. "I'm coming home for Thanksgiving. Would you like to meet?" So we met in Windsor. He drove from London, and I drove into Windsor, and we hashed out a plan to start a business. So I moved back home, which is essential, too, because I wouldn't be here in front of you had I not done that.
Yeah, no doubt.
So for about 5 years, I ran a business selling Canadian-only CDs and other music-related things to record stores, again, just like I was doing it.
Canadian only.
Canadian only. And at the time, thank God for Sarah McLaughlin, she released a Canadian-only CD that was, I sold literally 10,000 of these to chains like Harmony House, which you probably remember.
I do.
If you were out in Boston, Newbury Comics was a big chain down there. Manifest in Columbia, South Carolina was a big chain down there. And, of course, all the independent record stores like the one I used to work with. So it did very well for 4 years. And then there was a 5th year of just, and those were 2 factors that really kind of sent me downward. And it wasn't me, because I was just running the business fine, I thought. But Napster, hey, thanks for making music free.
Yeah.
Record stores really couldn't compete with free music.
No.
No.
And then Best Buy. Best Buy's like a new retailer at this point, and they're drawing you into their store by selling a CD at $9.99. A big artist like Metallica.
Yeah.
And my same stores that I was selling to were buying that same Metallica CD for $11 wholesale to sell it to you for $14, and there's just no way to compete with these two things.
Yeah.
So
they pulled all that. They had the buying power, right?
They have multiple stores.
Yeah.
And the loss leader got you in to buy a refrigerator.
Right.
Which is shaped like an amplifier. Anyway,
Right.
no one knows what I'm talking about. They can't see it, can they?
I did not buy that at Best Buy.
I know you didn't, but it's cool as hell. Anyway, so that fifth year, I guess, was the, now what? Well, I thought I was going to be fine. I've been a manager and a head buyer. I've been essentially a business owner. I didn't own the business, but I had ownership in the business.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good resume, don't you think?
Did you see?
I would think so.
Working in CD sales, literally, did you see like the shift in the industry coming at all, or did it kind of hit you like on the side of the head?
This was the early 2000s. So actually, I shut down my Dr. Disc International business at the very beginning of 2001. January 1st, 2001, we were out of business.
Wow.
So what you're talking about hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
There was no like shift back towards vinyl yet.
Yeah.
CDs are still king.
Yeah.
Except, now we're seeing free music and digital music starting to come in and take over as maybe I don't need to own all this stuff.
Right.
Tell my record collection that. But anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, records are...
They're back.
They are.
Yeah. So
I'm glad.
the education wasn't, I thought I was going to be okay with what I had experience-wise to get another job. And it turns out I was not. So this little music guy still wants to do something in the music industry, but also wants to have a real job,
right?
Something that pays the bills and makes people happy. And it turns out, as I'm going to the classes in my second round of college at U of M Dearborn, one of my fellow students that was in two of my classes needed notes one day. And I said, hey, you don't want to try and read my writing. It's a little sloppy. I always retype my notes anyway. What is your email address? She wrote down whfrpd@hfcc.edu. I expected Kim something or other or whatever. Do you work at a radio station? Yes, I do. It's right next door at Henry Ford Community College. 10th grade John's going, hello.
Right.
Remember me?
Right. Perfect.
Yeah. And so I asked about it. It was a 1 credit hour class. I could take the class and make a demo, and they might put me on the air if they like me. And this very nice Kim explained all this to me. I'm like, I'm going to do that. So the next semester, as soon as I could, it was a spring semester, I took that 1 credit hour class. And I made my demo, and they loved me. And they put me on the air. And so nobody was doing folk music there at the time. Everybody was doing indie rock or rap or whatever, jazz. And so I took over as the folk music director because that's the only way I was going to get any new music sent to me. So I started reporting when I played, and I just started there. It was just a fun thing to do on the side while I was finishing my degree next door at U of M Dearborn, which I picked U of M Dearborn, by the way, because the parking's better.
Absolutely.
It's true.
No doubt.
No offense, Ann Arbor. Love you, but parking's easier in the Dearborn lot.
For sure.
So I'm still nurturing my love of music because I actually volunteered at U of M's radio station too. In Dearborn, they have one there. I can't remember the call letters, but I did that for a little while just for fun.
Yeah.
And then HFR actually has an FM signal that goes like 10-mile radius. So people could actually hear what I was doing for a change. And it actually felt like, oh, here, I'm actually doing radio now.
Yeah. I've been over there before too. With a couple of different projects. They do a nice job.
It's a good operation.
Yeah.
It's a really good operation. So.
And how did you feel like once you really got in there and got on the air? Were you like, this is what I want to do, for the rest of my life?
I didn't purposely. I wasn't going there to do that for a job. I was doing it for fun, and I was finishing my degree next door, and this was a distraction, a very pleasant distraction.
Right.
But I'll tell you, the encouragement actually came from outside of me that made me think, maybe I can do this, and I'll give you a few examples. So Jay Kornick was the station advisor there, and he'd been there for decades. And he said to me one day, John, we get a lot of people through here, but not a lot of people through here with the gift. I think you have the gift. And for somebody who'd been there that long, I was like, wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, 105 was Magic 105, and the radio station was holding a contest. Who wants to be a traffic reporter? Well, obviously that dates what was on TV at the time. And the prize was you were going to be the co-host in the afternoon with Jim Palucci, and you were going to be doing the traffic. So they wanted you to send in a traffic demo. Okay, fine. I have access to WH4 studio. I'll just record it. My sister was encouraging me to do it. Wasn't my radio station, but whatever. Jim Harper was the morning host there. And if you're old enough, you remember how big Jim Harper's name was in Detroit.
Yep.
And one of my students that I went to high school with was listening one day and said, oh my God, I just heard they played your demo on the air. And Jim Harper said, we should stop the contest now.
Wow.
And that was
huge.
that was huge to me. Like, really, Jim
Wow.
Miller thinks I'm okay. That's kind of cool. So I was in the top
Impressive.
5, and I knew I wasn't going to win because there was all females except me, and I was pretty sure they didn't want to pair Jim Palucci with a guy.
Right.
So Kristen Sakuchi won. I remember her name because it rhymes with Palucci. And I wrote her a little note and said, congratulations. And she wrote back, said, I can't believe you didn't win. I'm like, okay, thank you. And it was just like all this like, oh, this feels nice. And then one other example is doing interviews in the studios. I was doing some on the phone and some in the studios, as many in the studios as I could. And my first really big name in the studio was Brian Vander Ark of the Verve Pipe. Now, the Verve Pipe had a huge hit in the 90s. Yep. They went on tour with Kiss and NXS. They were huge.
They were.
At this point, their final album was released on September 11th, the September 11th that you think of when I say that.
Wow. Yeah.
And that essentially prevented them from promoting it. It's their best work. And they couldn't promote it, so the band kind of dissolved.
Yep.
And here he is trying to launch his solo career with a very good solo album. And his mood, obviously, from, hey, I'm on the top of the world, is now like dour and sad.
No doubt.
And so are the songs.
Yeah.
And rough, but they're beautiful songs.
Yeah.
His solo albums are great.
He's a talented
It
man.
really is. But I spent a lot of time preparing for this interview because I respected who was coming in to visit me at the small little college radio station.
Yeah.
And I prepared the hell out of that interview. And at the end of the interview, which was an hour long, he signed my CD with something very complimentary, and he said to me, you've asked me a lot of questions no one's ever asked me before. You're really good at this.
Yeah. I love that. I wonder what are those questions? You know,
I don't know. I have the interview.
Yeah, we're
still,
gonna
so
need that.
I did a lot of research though.
That'd be really
I watched
cool.
the Rockstar
No,
movie.
yeah,
did you know he
absolutely.
was in the movie Rockstar? He plays the bass player. He's got.
Do you ever how often do you go back and listen to any interviews you've done? I mean, did you do that early on to sort of critique yourself?
I did
And
very much. Actually, when I started at WHFR, I recorded every show, and I still have them. I used to transfer them from cassette to CD, and then I would play them back and critique myself and try and figure out how to get better. Until I figured out, okay, my wife was one of the ones who told me drink more water because doesn't sound very good on the microphone. Oh, okay. So I always have a water bottle with me. Thanks, Peggy.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. What are there any other, big tips that you've just kind of found over the years from about interviewing? Or I know, like you mentioned, just doing a ton of research beforehand and having real questions that show that you care and that, you've done your research. Anything else that's helped you over the years, like with interviewing or just radio in general?
I'm going to say that I had two people I really looked up to as radio hosts, and I tried to, without copying, emulate what they were doing. And that would be Ann DeLisi and Rob Reinhardt, both excellent interviewers, both excellent radio hosts, both at WDET currently. But their approach to interviewing was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be as good as they were. And that's what I did. I mean, when I listen to radio now, I think about how good the broadcasters on the news stations are and how pro they are, much more pro than I ever was and still are. Just that delivery and that confidence. And I learned from listening to Rob and Ann, and I learned from listening to news radio, just like how to approach talking to people.
Absolutely.
And once you get comfortable with the idea of, oh my gosh, I'm in the room with Colin Hay of Men at Work. When I was a kid, Men at Work would play Pine Knob.
Huge.
And this is the
So
Colin
big.
Hay is sitting in front of me. How do he's just Colin Hay. He's a guy who's a music fan just like me. That's how you do it.
And you're having a conversation.
And I'm just
at
having
that
a
point,
conversation
right?
with Colin about music. I mean, once I got past his first visit to our studios was a little awkward. We're setting up the microphones. We're chatting with him beforehand. We're not on the air yet. So he says, so do you play my music then? I'm like, my boss is there in the room too. And he goes, well, yeah, we play some music from you. Well, what do you play then? At this point, he's got an album called Man at Work where he's redone some Men at Work songs acoustic.
That's right.
And we're playing two of those kind of off and on. And we tell him that. He's like, oh, so nothing I've written in the last 20 years then, eh?
That's super awkward.
This is a great start to a Colin Hay interview. So I had to win him over during the interview by like focusing, which I was going to do anyway. But I mean, you can't not touch on, this is Colin Hay from Men at Work. You know who he is, but he's got solo stuff out.
They were huge.
He's going to be playing the Arc tonight as a solo artist. So let's talk about that. You've also had some success by being on Scrubs. You were in an episode of Scrubs.
Oh,
walking
really?
down the
That's
hallway.
awesome.
And that's really
right.
I liked that show a
It
lot.
gained him a whole new audience by doing that show.
Yeah, that episode, I very clearly remember that episode. And but Men at Work was a what was their first record called with the
Business as Usual.
Yeah, Business as Usual. That was a prominent record in my house growing up.
83, 84, right around there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, you just have to approach it as, okay, I'm here. This is my job. And that's all I do. As I've interviewed some pretty big names. Sometimes they're not big names when they're through the studios, but they turn into big names. Ed Sheeran. I'm looking at you, Ed Sheeran. No one knew who you were when you were with me. I didn't know who you were.
Oh, you interviewed Ed Sheeran?
So on his first tour of America, he was opening for Snow Patrol, who I love. I hoped to interview them someday, but that's apparently not going to happen. And the record label that he's on said, hey, we've got this new priority. Would you guys be willing to have him in? And my boss approached me about it. We had just started playing his first single, The A-Team, and I thought, well, that's a little different than what we're doing normally, but how about you send me the record and I check it out and I let you know? So they email me digital files because they didn't have physical CDs yet. And I check it out. I'm like, it's pretty good. I can ask him some questions. I got some things. I had no idea until the interview, as it came up in conversation, that at that time the album had been out in the UK.
Yeah.
Biggest sellers of the year, Adele, Ed Sheeran, and Coldplay.
In the
UK.
UK.
Already.
Yeah,
Like when he's in the studio with me, like, I didn't know that. I should have known that
crazy.
coming in. But I just treated him like I treated anybody else coming to the studio.
Yeah.
Tell me your stories. Tell me about this song. There's a song on his album called Lego House. And I really liked that song. I was drawn to it. And I asked him about that. So I said, is that a song about building up and tearing down a relationship and starting over again? He said, you're the first person that's gotten that. And I thought to myself, are you kidding? That's so obvious.
Yeah, right?
When you asked me if I go back and listen to any of my interviews, that one I did because after he got big, I'm like, what did I talk to him about?
Is that one anywhere? Is that one floating around on the internet out there?
So I have a website. I have a little clip of it. I think I actually have that clip on johnbommarito.com. So if you go to johnbommarito.com, there's a little section that has the little snippets of my interviews. I went back and listened to a bunch of my interviews because at the end of when I knew the furlough that took me off the air at 107.1 was coming, and I knew I was getting to do one last show before the furlough started, not knowing whether I was coming back or not.
Yeah.
I purposely went out of my way to listen to a bunch of the interviews of the biggest names or the most important or favorite interviews I'd done over the course of 15 years, 14 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And picked little snippets of them.
Okay.
And played a song from that session. So my very last Sunday brunch on 107.1, I included little snippets and songs. I took a lot of time putting it together because I thought this could be my last one.
I feel a little choked up about it too.
It was
It's
cool.
Yeah,
it was fun to do. So there've been some fun names through that studio. Things that
that's a big. That's a big. I mean, some of the names you've mentioned already are like, huge.
Yeah.
What is? I guess was there anything sort of what was a surprising moment that you might have had with an answer that one of these big names gave you, or a scenario where it was just not, you have these expectations probably of what somebody's going to be like. I'm thinking, well, Ed Sheeran seems like a pretty nice guy.
He was a super nice guy, but I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah. But like, were there any situations where you're like, oh, this is not what I expected, or this person is different than I thought they were going to be, or
First one that comes to mind is a negative experience. Andrew Bird was kind of a jerk to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't really even want to be there. I was missing a family reunion to do this interview that was set up.
Yeah.
And middle of the afternoon, like 2:00 on a Saturday or something, and he was coming through.
Yeah.
I wasn't that familiar with him, but of course I knew he was a big deal to a lot of other people.
Sure.
I'll give you the same respect I give everybody else. I will interview you, sure. And I don't know what it was about me that he didn't like, but he just didn't treat me super well. And I remember that. I remember being poorly treated by him.
And that's frustrating. Like, especially it's your show, you're trying to highlight this artist and they're just kind of giving you the cold shoulder or something.
Maybe he didn't want to be there either. Maybe his record label said you have to do this to promote the show.
Yeah,
wherever the show was at.
I imagine that happens.
Sure. And that doesn't mean that I couldn't like a song that he did. I'm not holding it against him. It might have been a bad day. I experienced a bad day with somebody whose music I love, Paolo Nutini from...
Oh, wow, yeah.
Paolo had played... 107.1 used to do things at Borders. Remember if we used to do live at 01? And every now and then when Martin wasn't doing the hosting, I got to do the hosting. And Paolo got stopped coming from Toronto into Detroit at the border, and they not strip searched, but they just they tore the truck apart essentially.
Oh yeah.
So that 4 a.m. crossing didn't go so well.
Might as well get strip searched at that point when you're just tearing everything apart.
It didn't. He was grumpy.
I bet.
And we were in front of 400 people at Borders and live on the air, and I'm struggling to go. How do I fix this? I don't know how to fix this.
Yeah,
Just keep asking my questions and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Man.
that was a rough experience. But there was just lots of so many gracious people that you're so surprised that they're sweet and kind, and they're super nice people. Vance Joy.
I think that's been my experience overall. I think like musicians tend to be pretty humble and kind. That's
until they get some success, and then
well,
they
that
become
we all know
assholes
that
a lot of the
happens.
time.
Sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them have treated me like friends the whole time. Even
Yeah.
even when
cool.
they
And
think
that's
it's
the way to
same
be. I mean, there's tons of artists that just get a big head when they get like a large local following or something like that, or they start to rise above other people. But, people they're going to remember a negative experience with you, and they're going to remember if you treat them poorly, so it's always the best policy to just be super nice, definitely.
too.
I think there's a lot of artists that think that, and have thought in the past that their success is going to be forever and they're always going to be the man, and that they can treat other people however they want and it's never going to affect them because they're who they are. When, that's just totally not the case. The energy that you
case.
put out there is going to be reflected back at you in one way or another,
Yeah. There's a fine line between confidence and cockiness, I suppose.
I
So.
agree with you on that.
Yeah.
100%.
And you
I've
can
actually
be
said those
cocky
words.
too,
Yeah.
I think, but it's just people. Like, treat people with respect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about people. at the end of
Confidence
the
is
day.
actually key to a lot of things, I think. If you're driving, please be confident. If you don't have the confidence,
It's an excellent point.
get somebody else.
100%.
And I think confidence is super important in like what you do, just speaking and being live on the radio and stuff. Is that something that just came naturally to you, or is that something that you had to like? Did being on radio help you with your confidence in a way?
It did. Actually, it did. So
Yeah.
that kind of came from the WHFR days. So I gotten comfortable just doing it, but I still had to acclimate to commercial radio because it is a different beast.
Yeah,
And there are a lot more people listening.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And the approach is just a different, like you can say you should go out and buy this album where you can't on a non-commercial station. That's actually against FCC regulations for a non-commercial station to encourage somebody to go buy something.
Right.
Wow.
So I had two mindsets during the time that had the overlap. I had to turn off my non-commercial brain and turn on my commercial brain. I actually have to get people to go buy stuff. That's my job.
Yeah.
Oh wait, now I can't have them do that. It's just switch on and off, on and off. Confidence came from people like letting me know that they liked what I did, and there was also the starting to do stage announcements thing, which was not something I wasn't. There's the difference between being in a concert audience and being on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
And until I started doing regular stage announcements, I didn't have the same confidence I had even on the air. Like that built my confidence too. Once you just got comfortable being in front of people. As a mobile disc jockey doing weddings, that's different. I mean, that's a limited, I can see your faces, it's all good. But
Sure.
when you can't see their faces, I always found that when I was at the Arc doing a stage announcement, it was weirder when it was 20 people than 400 people.
Oh,
Isn't that funny?
I had a harder
really
time with
is.
like, oh my God, I can see all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so personal too. It's like
Yeah.
you're making a personal connection with each and every
Yeah.
single person that's in
Yeah.
that room, and
Yeah.
everyone knows that there's only 20 people there too.
Yeah. As a performer, playing in bands for years, I've been playing forever, but some of the shows that I've played with the least amount of people, I've been the most nervous for versus
Why is that?
a larger festival show, and there's, hundreds of people out there. I somehow,
You already know they're all not listening.
right?
That's essentially what it is. That's how I looked at it at the Arc. Like,
Yeah.
I know I'm talking to 400 people, but only 300 are listening. So
Probably.
I'll talk
yeah.
to those 300.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
those are-
man. I was thinking just like listening to you talk about just going back and thinking about the music industry, and you were talking about the live things at Borders, which obviously bookstores have gone away. Like
So much has changed.
you can't even that kind of a experiential event doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble is still there.
Yeah,
on
but,
Washtenaw.
but they don't do anything cool like Borders did.
If they do, they don't advertise them.
I've never. Yeah.
They have,
yeah.
well, I'm sure they have book signings and things.
Well,
but that's
yeah,
a
they
different
maybe.
beast.
But the I feel like Borders always did sort of music related events. You guys
They
did
did.
that for a while, right?
We
that
did
was
that
a
for many
1071
years. Yeah, it was a
partnership. So
club. They did some stuff without us as well. Every now and then, either we'd say no. I wasn't involved in those decisions, but I would hear about, oh my gosh, I miss Jan Arden. Jan Arden was at Borders. I love Jan, but
Yeah.
hear about it like a week later.
yeah. Well, and then there's the obviously the arc. I think we're all like lamenting this missing out on these things. It's kind of crazy. But like, we've also talked about how the industry has changed too, right? We went from 8 tracks and vinyl, and then there was Napster, and then now there's streaming music, right? People like the portability of it. Doesn't sound as good. It sounds pretty okay, like in the car or whatever. It doesn't sound as good as a CD.
Yeah, but these kids don't know what a CD sounds like. They're not gonna. They don't know. They have nothing to compare it to. They think it sounds fine.
Here's a question: the vinyl came back in a pretty significant way. Mm-hmm. You think the CD's ever going to come back?
I hope so, because I have a lot of them.
I do too. I have like 300 CDs.
I have 17,000.
A whole wall of them.
Yeah.
Max is looking at me like I'm old now too.
Yeah. No, I mean the CD. Yeah, it would be. I think it would be great for it to come back because, it just was so fruitful for artists. Like they made so much money during the CD era.
And vinyl's expensive. I mean, if you're an artist, to get vinyl pressed is,
it's ridiculous.
CDs were viable. I'm seeing people. I'm seeing cassettes again too.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
It's sort of nichey, but it's the whole mixtape thing.
I love making mixtapes. That's different than like accepting the quality of a cassette. But if you're accepting the quality of MP3s, then okay, fine.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Back to your discussion about the CD versus vinyl, and we're going to get Brian Vander Ark back into the conversation again. So you've heard of Patreon, I assume?
Yeah.
Maybe our watchers, viewers, listeners have not.
We're going to be starting a Patreon for our podcast for sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So Brian has a Patreon, and I support him because I consider him a friend, and I want him to continue feeding his family.
Yeah.
And his recent post to his Patreon patrons was, hey, the Verve Pipe are putting out a new record. What do you guys think? Do I bother putting it on CD? Do I bother putting it on record? What is your preference?
Yeah.
Please chime in. I was the first one to chime in because I have a strong opinion about this.
Yeah.
I love the sound of vinyl. It is warm.
Yeah.
It's a really good sound if you have the right system for it.
Yeah. That's important.
If you're playing it on one of those little Crosley things, doesn't matter.
Forget about it.
You're not getting it.
No.
But you are not currently a touring musician, Brian, but you will be one day. And what would you rather drag around with you? CDs or records? And first of all, CDs sound better. I'm sorry. Overall, they're much more convenient. Yes, I get it. Their players are not in your cars anymore. The whole thing about not releasing it physically is coming up a lot. Like we talked about May Earlywine earlier. She just collaborated with Woody Goss of Wolfpack on a really excellent release.
Oh, cool.
It's only available on vinyl and digital, which pisses me off.
Dang, no CD.
This is the first non-CD she's released. And it's making me a little angry. I bought the digital because I want to support her.
Yeah.
But the thought process is people aren't buying CDs anymore. Well, the only reason an artist like that would put out a CD probably is because they can sell them at their shows. Right. Which aren't happening. So there's a pretty good reason not to put it out.
Right.
But that's, Brian and I have had this discussion too. They become kind of like a calling card. It's my business card now. Here's my CD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a business card.
Right.
But this is how you're going to remember me.
Yeah.
At a small, intimate show, you're more likely to meet your fans and sign something afterwards. Can you do that on a digital download?
Nope.
You cannot. Can you do it on a record?
Pretty
yes.
awkward on a digital download card. Can you
card-
sign my digital download
That's
card?
weird.
No, for sure.
They probably did that. But then the vinyl, okay, then you got to lug this around. And then during the summer months, you got to somehow protect it from warping. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
I love vinyl. It's heavy. It's awkward.
Bringing it on tour does not seem like a thing that you want to do.
Doesn't
That's
make sense.
for sure.
It doesn't make sense. So, great. Come back vinyl. And they're making it on better quality.
Yeah.
The 180 gram and all that. I'm all for it. But thank you, Jack White, probably for reviving it. It's probably Jack's fault.
But CDs,
partially.
I think I like it. I think, I honestly had thought CDs were dead until this conversation. But, a crazy fun fact. I mean, when I released a mixtape in like 2015 or something, and I was actually passing out CDs at Hash Bash. And I gave a CD to Kyla, my girlfriend, and she hit me up like, "This is awesome. I'm a photographer. Let's do some work." And the rest is history. So without CDs, I wouldn't have the love of my life.
That was like, oh man, I didn't know that story.
That's how.
You want to get up and hug her right now?
No, we can hug later, but it's that physical ability of being able to like. because I've thought like maybe I can just pass out flash drives or something,
Yeah.
but it's like it's just not the same.
No,
Well,
it's not.
and supporting like local music and local, I mean, I can't tell you. And there's a whole, the top shelf of, I have all these CDs in my office, and it covers the whole wall. But like, there's a big section of that's all local music, like Southeast. Like I'd always buy a CD if I was at a local show.
Of course.
I mean, if I liked the band,
right.
or the artist or whatever. I mean, if I didn't, I would, not just because. So.
Yes.
But I bought. I mean, looking
I've
at
done
that
some
over
pity
the years-
purchases sometimes
Well,
at a
okay,
show. Like, yeah,
fair.
I'll buy your CD.
I
sure.
have. I've done that. Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
There's another downside. Another downside to vinyl, as somebody who sells music online, as the shipping costs of shipping vinyl,
Right.
is significantly more than shipping a CD. Media mail for CD is $2.80. You can still ship the vinyl media mail for $2.80,
Yeah.
but the packaging to put it in costs a lot more than a padded
Yeah.
envelope. So you're adding,
Absolutely.
you're
Or-
adding to your costs.
I mean, it was great too. I mean, years ago. I mean, CD Baby is still a thing.
Yeah.
But you could send them your CDs, and they would drop ship for you.
Yeah.
I mean, band I was in years ago. I mean, all of a sudden we saw sales coming in from like Northern England, and we're like,
Cool.
wow,
That's cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's a global
Very cool.
world.
There's like a soul scene in there, but we later found out that there was some like clubs and bars that had ordered our CD and like put it in a jukebox there.
Nice.
I was like, that's fun.
I mean, and
You
that
can't
kind
really
of
do
brings
that
up
with
another
records.
good thing about a CD is like I know a certain artist. I don't know if you guys know Kem, Kem, but one of my
personally.
teachers at Dime was Kem's manager for a long time.
Cool.
And, they talked about how back in the day, I mean, the way that Kem blew up in Detroit was they went and sold CDs to all of these restaurants and stuff downtown Detroit and basically had those businesses play his music and
Brilliant.
sell the CDs.
Yeah.
That helped give him the traction. And you just can't do things like that anymore,
No,
It's way hard. I mean, it's harder.
it's a different world.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. But I mean, I thought that was genius because she sold them to the restaurants and stuff at like wholesale prices, and which it gave the restaurants motivation to play the music because they wanted to sell the CDs. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool. You got to be innovative.
Yeah, and I mean, people are going to innovate now. I mean, it's hard to get around the streaming thing. I know there's a lot of controversy, right, about Spotify and everything else, but because you've seen the industry shift. You were in the industry of music distribution, and
From
I mean,
1985 forward, I was
Yeah.
in the industry. I watched CDs come to fruition.
yeah, they
Yeah.
were
I
huge.
remember stocking the first CDs on the shelf at record time.
Yeah,
I remember buying my first used CD. I remember
Yeah.
all that.
is it that we just don't know what's going to happen next? Do you think? Do you have any predictions?
We made it a point about how the younger audience doesn't seem to care about the audio quality. I'm going to comment on satellite radio. I think it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
The quality of a satellite radio station compared to a commercial radio station.
Is that just compression
It's
and
from my personal taste.
Yeah.
I can only handle it for short bits, and I don't have it in my car. Sometimes it comes with your new car or whatever.
Yeah,
It just doesn't sound good to me.
I don't
Yeah.
use it.
I can't.
I
do
mean,
it.
the thing is too is like radio in general. I mean, a lot of the kids and the youth, like if you have Spotify, your radio stations are the playlists.
Right.
Just throw on a playlist.
Yeah,
You know,
But
and
then
that's like
eventually they want to hear local content, like what's
the
going. Eventually they-
local and
yeah.
the
The news.
personalities too,
Right,
and that's what like I think personalities. Are so powerful. That's all radio has now is
Yeah.
personalities.
localism too, though. You have to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about what's
yeah.
happening in Ann
Localism.
Arbor. What is going on in
Yep.
town? What
Yep.
is actually
Well,
happening?
that's one of the things I always loved about 107.1, right? And
too.
the same thing I like about 89.1 is our
EMU.
EMU is that it is local content, and it's like I get to live in this area, and it's prominently on my radio. I don't listen to radio all the time, but I am often in the mood for it, and I do like specific shows like that I will tune into. So I would be really sad if that went away.
I mean, and I don't think it ever would go away because, like, I mean, if you think about it, like maybe it'll go away in commercial radio, and already right now, you go to different places in the country, And a lot of the time you hear the same type of music. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be very regional, very local. Now it's not.
Yeah.
But, with the decentralization of content with podcasting and things like that, I mean, podcasting can be very localized, and there's no reasons why podcasting can't hold that torch in the future.
I think it seems like it's transitioning there almost. I mean, there's always going to be radio, but there's just less, because it's so spread out. Like you said, going from one city to another, you might hear the same kind of content, different radio stations,
That's
a large
controlled
corporate.
by the corporation.
Yeah. It's all centralized. They're all told what to play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
how does a radio station actually capture? How do you get to the point where you can offer local content like 107.1?
That's a good question.
It's
it's the format for one thing. The format of that station is AAA, Adult Album Alternative, and there are less rules than there are in a top 40 station because you can kind of interpret that any way you want.
Right.
There's the singer-songwriter lean on that. There's the classic rock lean on that. There's the alternative rock lean. There's different ways to go AAA.
Sure. Okay.
And because it's a less known format, most of the time the corporate owners of those stations just kind of go, you guys know what you're doing.
But it might be a little harder with some hip hop or something like that where it's more mainstream.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to the hip hop world that well, but I mean, there's still going to be things that are popular and everyone's playing them, so I have to play them. But we also fell into that too, though. There's playlists for our format. There's the 30 songs that are doing really well at KFOG in San Francisco, so they're going to do well for you. Maybe not. We're Ann Arbor. We're a little different.
No doubt.
So I always felt that kind of talk was not right for this town. This town is really intelligent. Ypsi Ann Arbor area, we've produced many smart people who want something different, who want something that isn't so cookie cutter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what worked well at 107 for quite a while, that it wasn't a cookie cutter station.
Right.
So,
yeah. Do you feel like you got to really put your finger on the pulse of, the culture of Ann Arbor and kind of see what people really did like by their responses from different types of music and stuff?
I think so. I wasn't really programming anything but the Sunday program though. So I mean, I didn't get to pick, but I play the other 6 days a week. But when you're out in the community meeting people at concerts or events, Rock Over the Hungry, whatever, you're getting a sense of who they are. And I've never been able to afford to live in this town, but I can tell you that these are my people.
Yeah.
The people that live around here are the people that I want to hang out around with and who I want to be closer to because they're my kind of people.
Yeah. It's a great area.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I lived in Ann Arbor from the time I was 9 years old until, I graduated from Pioneer.
Lucky bastard.
And yeah, I loved it, man. And growing up in Ann Arbor really shaped my personality. It really made me question. I mean, just like you said, it's a very educated area, but it's also a very open-minded area that encourages you to question things and encourages you to, kind of think for yourself. And because I never, for example, growing up in Ann Arbor, I always saw all kinds of different people all over the place. It's just diversity was normal to me, and then you travel to other places in Michigan and you're like, wow, that's not how it's like so anywhere else.
It really isn't. It's a really unique place.
Yeah.
I'm honored to have been part of the landscape for so long. It was a great experience. I had a Facebook post just a couple weeks ago that celebrating what would have been my 15th year in radio. I was just kind of acknowledging it because I do every year.
Yeah.
And I was so surprised by the responses. I did not expect what happened with that post. It was just like this. It reads like a letter of recommendation for me for my next job. But it was, you had an impact on me and, you made a difference. And oh my gosh, that's so good right now.
That's amazing.
I need that right now.
Yeah,
because
I'm
feeling a little crushed by the loss of that job. It was something I did. It was just part of who I was. I still think that I'm going to do something related to that at some point, but I'm not currently
to commercial radio or radio in general, or
it's just something that we briefly talked about the fact that I revived the acoustic alternatives things. We didn't really touch on that, but I'm putting together a weekly playlist that was much like my Sunday brunch show, just keeping me in touch with the scene that I was part of for so long. I would like to find a way to put that somewhere even if it's an online radio station, something that just lets me have that creative outlet, the people that want to hear it in a traditional radio sense and not put this playlist on that. When you watch videos on YouTube, sometimes there's random ads in the middle, right? I mean, unless you're paying for the premium and you're not.
Right.
Most people don't. So I don't know how it is as a listener. I'm assembling the playlist and not necessarily listening to it because I already know what the songs are.
Right.
But it would be much more enjoyable, I think, if we could have the similar, for the listener who's enjoying that, an experience where it was, a 2-hour program with less of these weird random interruptions that just came in.
So with the acoustic
Alternatives
show, is that are there episodes out that we can now
They're all
listen to?
they're all archived on a YouTube page. So
if somebody wants to listen to those, where can we direct them to that, or can we post it?
Yes, you could post it. The easiest thing to do right now. So there is a johnbommarito.com which redirects you.
Do that.
And then I haven't had a lot of time to fix my webpage, but there it says the Sunday Brunch is one of the tabs. Well, the Sunday Brunch no longer exists, but under the Sunday Brunch tab, you can find a link to the playlists, and I have a blog as well. And so the blog has subscribe to the YouTube channel. So there's a YouTube channel for acoustic alternatives.
That's right. And there's the show from the different clips from the different interviews, some of your favorites.
Yeah.
That people can go listen to. JohnBommarito.com. So you guys should check that out.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
Thanks for giving me a chance to throw it out there.
Yeah. Well, and then there's other things that we've been talking about along the lines of coming here and doing some stuff. So we're excited about that. And this is the room to do it in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what exactly was it like working for a commercial radio station? Like dive into that a little bit, because I know you said you had your Sunday show where you had the ability to curate, your own show, but you also worked the other 6 days. You were saying, or something like that. So what was your experience like working as a commercial radio DJ?
I got to say that if there was any other radio station, there wasn't really another choice for me and my personality and what the kind of music I wanted to play on the radio. There wasn't another station I wanted to work at. So it was the right fit there. I didn't even know how much I was going to love working in Ann Arbor. Yeah. I moved when I got married from Roseville to Livonia, and then suddenly discovered there was a whole, like growing up in the Detroit radio market, you don't think about another radio market being so close by.
Yeah, you really don't.
I didn't realize there was one in Ann Arbor, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And I stumbled into 107.1 just like, well, now I live in Livonia. Let's poke through the dial. Like, oh my gosh, what's this? And it was exactly what I was looking for. I didn't even know it. When I was doing my show at WHFR, I was playing similar music to what 107.1 was playing at the time, because that time it was more of the singer-songwriter lean, as I was describing how the format could be interpreted. So Ari Hest and Stephen Kellogg, these guys that now would come through and play the Ark, those were in rotation at the time, as opposed to the Black Keys and Cage the Elephant, which is a totally different way to interpret this in the format.
No doubt.
But I got comfortable doing the commercial thing because the music fit my personality. It wasn't like you throw me into a country radio station, I would be lost and uncomfortable.
Right.
It's just not my thing.
Probably me too.
I would say if somebody offered me a job in country radio, I'd say no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I would, because I wouldn't be comfortable. It's just not my scene. I can't pretend to be something I'm not. I didn't have to pretend.
I'm having a hard time picturing you in a
cowboy
hat and the whole
I showed you the picture of me with long hair, but that's
that's a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could have a cowboy hat and long hair, but
you could, sure. I could see Max with a cowboy hat.
Yeah,
I think he could rock it. Yeah,
I'd rock it.
Yeah, for sure.
But Kyla's looking at us.
But I still wouldn't listen to country music, though.
And then nothing against
Sorry.
people who do. It's fine. Yeah. But the answer to your question is, it was easy to get comfortable there because I liked the format. I liked what we were doing. I believed in what we were doing. When I got hired, the person who was running the building at the time told me Ann Arbor's is possessive.
Ann Arbor's
is possessive. So we belong to this community. Like, okay, I can get on
That's
board with
good.
that. That's how I approached it. I approached it as, okay, well, I'm here to serve this community, much like I was doing in Dearborn. That's a community radio station. This is a commercial community radio station. It wasn't that big of a leap to go from one to the next, because the approach was very much the same. And then they bring in Martin Bandyke from WDET to be our morning host, and his approach was exactly the same. He's taking a non-commercial radio station, a community radio station, and bringing it to a commercial town. Yeah. And so it was an easy transition to put it into, okay, well, sure, we talk about the commercial stuff too, but that isn't why we're here. We're here to help the community learn about food gatherers, the Ark. Right.
And I that's what I've always loved about it too. I think it's now talking to you about this, realizing it to a finer degree about what makes Ann Arbor's 107.1 a special place to work. Obviously,
it
right?
was sure.
And it probably helped you, have a better sense of just helping people, that you were helping people with what you were doing, and especially hearing all that feedback recently.
Sure.
I'm sure that kind of gave you, looking back, a nice feeling that you've helped a lot of people. Even just a way bigger scope than you could probably even imagine, because
Exactly right. I actually, I don't know what I came in like. I can't remember that, but I can tell you what I came out. I really enjoyed helping the community a lot. That became like every day saying, here's Dave Matthews Band wasn't as exciting as raising 1 million meals during food gatherers.
Oh, yeah.
Rockin' for the Hungry.
That's amazing.
It's a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that accomplishment was unmeasurable.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Making a difference in somebody's life became what I wanted to do instead
Yeah.
of just saying, here's the next song.
And that,
Right.
that's fantastic. And I think when you realize that, when you realize how much helping other people is beneficial to yourself and how much it feels good, I mean, it kind of changes your life a little bit, huh?
It does, and I wanted
Yeah.
to do that for the local musicians that were coming to play, and the musicians that were touring musicians playing our studios too, that weren't as well known. I wanted to be able to make a difference for them too, because here I have a voice, and people are listening to my voice, and if they want to respond to what I'm saying about Liz Longley from Nashville and say, I think she's great, you should listen, and they do, then I feel like I've accomplished something. I've created a new Liz fan.
100%.
You're a gatekeeper.
and you are, and it's, I was thinking about how you posted that Facebook post kind of about how your time at 107.1 was kind of sunsetting here, but like people really do. When I told my wife and kids that I was interviewing you, they were like, "What? No way!" I mean,
Do you want me to come over and say hi?
Oh my God, they would lose their minds. I swear.
I'm just a regular guy like you.
Well, you are, but you're on. You're on the radio.
Not anymore.
And a lot. Well, yeah.
I'm a nobody now.
You will be again.
Oh.
You will be. And along those lines, as I'm thinking about helping people, that's actually one of our core values here at Grove, which is we really started this to help musicians. We wanted to give them a more professional place and an affordable place and a sustainable place. We have a real interest in building on the musical bones of the county. I mean, we have. It's one of the reasons I moved here. From the tiny little town that I'm from.
Where are you from?
Algonac.
Oh, yeah.
I was from Denver before that, but when we moved to Michigan, 4,500 people, small town. But one of the reasons
4,500 people?
4,500 people, man.
Jesus Christ.
And
That
I
was
can-
how many people was in my high school.
Say that's-
Correct. I had 100 people in my graduating class.
Woo.
Yeah. But before that, I lived in Denver. But, my interest in coming out here was really more for Ann Arbor. I couldn't afford U of M. I also didn't want to go to a school that big. So I chose Eastern because it was right next door. And the first thing I did when I came here, I got on a bus and I went into Ann Arbor because I knew there was a scene. I knew there was music. I knew there was this culture. And this whole area has that. And Ypsi has always kind of been, I don't know, they say Ypsi is the Brooklyn to Ann Arbor's Manhattan, I guess. That's the thing that they've said before. You've never heard that?
No, I very like it, though. Kind of.
Yeah,
Ipsy's got its own thing, though.
They both do. I love them
got a
both.
great vibe.
I really do.
There's an artsy scene here for sure.
For sure.
This is where they can afford to live. That's
Yeah,
why.
no,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And definitely like the cool shops can afford their rent, you know what I
Right.
mean? As opposed to Ann Arbor has lost a lot of its cool shops.
It has. That was one of
You
the
know.
things that I loved when I first moved was like some of the, I was kind of, into jam bands and the hippie stuff and all that, so like the head shops and all that, that was cool. We didn't have like anything like that where I was living.
But it's
so.
hard. I mean, it's hard to stop that from happening in a place that's so desirable to live. And I mean, that's going to happen in Ypsi too. I mean, Ypsi is going to,
It's
going to
already
go
happening.
up. I mean, it's because it's a very desirable place.
It is.
And that's just what's going to happen. It's happening in Detroit.
Yeah.
It's going to happen everywhere because Michigan, surprise, is like the best place to live in the world. So
It's
I
a
moved
pretty
back. I moved back from Florida. I had to be here again.
You say you would live in Florida again?
No. I
Oh.
moved back from Florida.
Oh,
'cause
yeah,
I
yeah.
belong here. This is
Yeah.
this is where my home
I totally
is.
get that. Yeah, I think we all of us feel that way in this room.
Not so many hurricanes here either.
Yeah.
No, I mean we're protected. Like, yes, we deal with a winter, but we have more coastline than California.
No wildfires.
And we're
No
we're not
wildfires.
dealing with these fires. We're not dealing with these earthquakes. We're not dealing with these tornadoes. I mean,
No.
It's pretty pretty
chill. No
chill
like
place
no
to live.
mudslides or landslides. Or,
Yeah.
And Grove Studios is in Michigan.
Yeah.
It's a
See.
really cool place.
Yeah.
And
We
John
appreciate
John Bommarito
Well,
is
yeah.
also here too.
But Grove Studios is a place you can come and like rent space to do your thing.
It
If
is.
you want to do a
is.
podcast, you can do it. There's a band somewhere in this building making some loud rock music right now,
Yeah.
having some fun.
Yeah.
That's because Grove Studios exists for them to do that in.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and we're just as you know, we want to expand into other communities, but we love being in this community, and this is always like for us going to be our headquarters and home, no matter how much we expand to other locations. So our core team will always stay in this area,
Cool.
and that's the big plan. But I think we just have a huge opportunity. I know things have changed, right? The last 6 months have been challenging to say the least.
Yeah.
2020 can, I'll be happy when it turns over and it's 2021, but there's been some amazing things that have happened too. And we've actually seen artists, who are kind of hunkered down and locked down for a long time. They've been creating. I think we're going to see a huge, especially once people feel like they can tour again and maybe some things open back up when things become a little bit more normal.
Right.
I think we're gonna have like this huge burgeoning of creation because most artists I know have been hunkering down and writing and creating, even if they've been doing it remotely or whatever. It's still happening because what else are they gonna? They can't tour.
So, some of them are shutting down because it's getting them emotionally. I mean, I don't know how this has affected you
there's-
emotionally.
It's been both, right? For the first, I probably didn't touch my guitar for the first 2 months.
Right. You're just
I
like,
had people that
"Oh."
had to talk me into it.
Yeah.
Like, I think you should really play your guitar again. So I agree. Yeah. There's
I haven't
that
been
too.
making much music during the pandemic.
Because what are you going to
know?
get inspired by? I mean,
Yeah.
it's good
Yeah.
to be creative because you're kind of locked into, well, I got
Yeah.
nothing else to do. Let's be creative. But if you have no experiences to talk about,
Yeah, there's both. I think both is.
Yeah, I mean it's
Parallel.
also pressure like creates diamonds, and going through this tough time. I honestly think like yes, we're at a hard time, and yes, there's most people, 99% of people out there have a harder time than me. And us, in the United States. But, I think, going forward, we're at the start of, the new future. I think going forward, there's going to be a huge explosion of, yes, there's going to be hard things and bad things, but also, I mean, everything is going to be balanced. There's also going to be a huge explosion of innovation and music and all the good things,
Our Dan, our business coach, he's said routinely throughout the whole pandemic, he thinks that the 5 biggest companies in the world within the next 10 years are being built right now because people are being forced to sort of innovate in ways they hadn't had to innovate before.
Absolutely.
plexiglass, for instance.
Yeah, plexiglass is doing wonderful. Anybody that can make masks are doing really great.
Surgical
Can't just have
gloves.
one mask all the time, right? You got to have a collection.
Should wash them from time to time, or these ones you throw away.
Yep. Either way, but I think it's going to be interesting to just see what happens in music. I think people are going to be really itching to get back when they feel comfortable and that they can. We miss live shows.
I could just because I'm still so worried about having any place to go see live music. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know if you got the emails today from some of those independent venues, or was it yesterday I got them, but
Uh-huh.
they were encouraging us to write our senators and our lawmakers and please support this bill. And I did immediately. I didn't
Yeah.
hesitate for 1 second to say, yes, I'm on board with that because I
Right.
hate to lose. Really, my hobby is going to see live music.
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
play it,
there's-
so that's it.
Some really incredible venues that are in great danger, right?
All over the world.
Everywhere.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But I don't want to lose my favorites here. And
Yeah.
What do you think about, virtual reality concerts, though, that basically put you in the sensory experience that you're pretty much right there? Like, do you still
'Cause
think
we do have
like,
the
is that-
technology.
I mean,
Sure.
and that's right around the corner,
I'd be interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see them play from their living rooms or their family rooms or their bedrooms too. That's
Yeah.
kind of fun. I mean, thinking about, we were talking about Ed Sheeran earlier, it would be interesting to see him play from his little bedroom, but I'm really enjoying Matt Nathanson playing from his basement or
Yeah.
wherever. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying catching a show as much as I can from somebody I support.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it all the time, but it's actually
Yeah.
easier to make an excuse to leave the house to go to a show than it is to say, well, I'm going to be busy from 8 to 9 tonight because I'm going to be watching this concert on my
It
computer.
is.
But if I'm out enjoying a meal beforehand or visiting with a friend at the show,
That's a different
you know,
thing.
it's a totally different thing. And
Yeah.
it can't be replaced with this online experience.
I don't
I'm
think-
happy that I can get
Yeah.
some live music somewhere.
Now, I agree with you. I don't think it can be replaced. I think they'll always, obviously we all want that experience again. And live streaming was a thing. It was doing, it was kind of doing this before, it's been going up, and obviously there's different, calibers of live streaming. Some people, you just them in front of a laptop, but you can do a lot to make a live stream more exciting. Do you think it's going to be critical for people to continue to do live streaming, like as a part of, because there are people that weren't doing it at all before, and they
People
suddenly
that still
figured
aren't
out-
doing it at all.
People still, yeah, true.
We're going to have a winter soon.
Yeah.
And these people that have been doing the occasional backyard concerts, even the non-local musicians who've been doing little mini tours and playing small places,
Yep.
are going to have to go back to playing from their living rooms.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
These people need income. These people that I still want to support.
absolutely.
I hope it makes it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I think we're all concerned.
Well,
Yeah.
even in the Napster era, I was worried about just, okay, you're stealing from, you think Eminem and Kid Rock have all these gazillions of dollars because they sold a lot of money, but if you keep stealing their art, they won't be able to make that art that you like.
Very true.
So stop stealing their art.
Yeah,
So if we're
yeah.
expecting musicians to do this for free for the next 6 months and still be there for us in 6 months to make music, not going to happen.
It's not gonna happen.
They're going to have to go to Walmart and get a job.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
why I really think that this live stream stuff needs to take more of the form like a normal type of ticketing experience. And even I even see the possibility of, okay, I'm an artist. How about I do a live stream only for my Michigan fans today? And then next week I do a live stream only for my Ohio fans. And then next week, tour that way,
Yeah,
but only
yeah.
through online. So you're not letting all of your fans see all of your stuff. And I don't know how that would work from a
I
tech
don't
perspective.
IP addresses.
You know what I mean?
There's a way.
Maybe, but there's an artist that I'm a fan of that's doing something not quite like that, but he's got a tour booked. It would have been the tour that he was going to take on the road. Stephen Kellogg is his name. And Stephen has different cities where you can buy a ticket to see the show at the different cities, including the Ark. You're just basically committing to watching the show that day. That's all
Yeah.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I want to watch the show from Chicago, even though he's playing an hour. You could do that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
I think they're selling a limited number of visual spots, not literal seats, but
Yeah.
only 40 people or whatever the number is. That might be the same idea that you're getting to, where it's still kind of limited. It's a special show for those people who bought the tickets, the limited number of
Yeah.
tickets for the online show.
Right.
That's the closest thing I think you can do. It's
Yeah.
just like cap it at, here's the password to get in. This is how you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
That's it. We're sold out today.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of the hardest things about touring is how expensive it is, and just the overhead costs of going on tour. If you're not bringing 50 to 100 people out everywhere you're going, you're not making any money. You're not even breaking even, so this could, make it more possible for people to reach, the outer lengths of the world without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars, moving around. But then, it's not quite the same experience.
Yeah,
but
it is.
I think as long as artists are, accepting of new technology and add it into their, playbook of things that they can do, I think maybe, I think it's a good thing that we're pushing towards it, but it's definitely not a replacement for, an in-person concert.
I think Laith El-Sadi said something about being able to get himself into more cities this way because he can't really afford to tour. As great as he is and one of our favorite locals, he's one of the most amazing guitar players and great
Yeah.
singer as well.
Yeah.
But he can't, do a huge tour because he can't afford to do this huge tour.
Right.
He's got a built-in audience in California where he's done well out there, and obviously here
Yeah.
But there are people in between that want to see him too. So for him, I think this has worked out to be a pretty good deal. For me, I have artists that I really like that are from the UK or Ireland who never come here because it's too expensive to come here if you're only going to be playing to those 50 people because they're not big enough. But I happen to be a big fan. So, hey, I can finally see them in concert, so to speak.
Yes.
So there's ups and downs, I still would rather go into a room and be in that atmosphere with people who are clapping and actually engaging and being present. But it beats nothing. I'm glad it exists.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Imagine if we didn't have the technology to do any of this stuff. It would.
We're lucky that technology had gotten to a point that we are before this all happened. Because if this happened 20 years ago, it would have been a different story.
It would have destroyed the music industry.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Because I mean, like now, especially like independent artists, we've already known for 20 years that we got to grind as independent artists, and this is just accelerating the process. 20 years ago, it was still everyone's pipe dream to just get a record deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you don't need one.
But what is your opinion on artists trying to get spending time trying to get songs on the radio? And what that process might look like. Like, do you think it's still worth it for artists to try and reach out to local shows and get their songs on the radio? Just even just for the clout or whatever.
I think so, in my opinion. I was never the decision maker on what got put into rotation at the station. So I got my show, and I was lucky to have 2 hours to pick every week. But as far as getting a local artist played in regular rotation on a commercial radio station.
Not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but eventually artists break out of the area that they're from and they become national acts.
Yeah.
Right.
For some reason, I'm thinking of the Fray. When I first started at 107.1, the Fray were kind of new from Denver. And I thought to myself, they were just a Denver local band at some point, and now they're getting played on the radio everywhere.
Yeah.
Why isn't that happening here? Why aren't we supporting X and making waves in Ann Arbor so that the rest of the country hears about?
Correct.
I never understood that. I still don't, because I never got to make that decision.
Well, honestly, that's one of our goals, right? Like, we want to do more of that, right? We want to
build localism.
Build the localism, because there's so many talented people in this town.
There really are.
And that's the huge upside in podcasting. I mean, podcasting right now, is mainstream entertainment. So, the fact that you can grow a podcast to where hundreds of thousands of people are listening or millions of people are listening, to what you have to say is just, it's a good thing. It's tough though, because it's just like the music industry, when it became really easy to produce your own music, it gets flooded. You know what I mean? So how do you rise to the top? How do you, actually make people want to listen? And I think it boils down to the same thing as radio. It's like, it's the personalities, it's how good your interviews are going to be, and also your marketing and stuff like that.
Well, to answer your question, I think radio is still important. It's still an important part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
If you can get yourself on radio, you can get more exposure. You can get more respect, I guess. Hey, I was
for
getting
sure.
Regular rotation on whatever station.
Yeah.
So
there's clout to that.
There is clout to that. It's nice that there are Spotify playlists that you can get added to as well, but
yeah, it's part of the mix.
It's just part of what happens now.
So what was the best way that people got placed, like on your show, for example? Like, they just hit you up with email and then you liked what they had to say, or like, what are some tips for reaching out to local radio curators?
It was personal taste for me. If I didn't like your stuff, I wasn't going to play it.
Yeah.
And I can't like everything.
You can't force yourself to like everything.
No, I tried to support the stuff I felt was worthy of getting supported. There's some stuff that was fine, but it wasn't for me.
Yep.
And every now and then someone would ask my opinion and I would give it, and they wouldn't be happy with it and they'd be mad at me. But you asked my opinion.
Right.
I can't.
It's
great.
That's the way feedback works, isn't it?
I don't want to name names, and I'm not going to tell her story. But one particular artist reached out to me. She was so sweet. She came to the station. Oh, I want to send you. Oh, here's my CD. Let me know what you think of it. Okay, I will. And then I didn't like it at all. And I was like, I don't really want to tell her I didn't like it. And then she bugged me to tell me what. Oh, okay, I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah.
And then, hated me. Still hates me.
Yeah.
You asked my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it.
I don't understand that. As from an artist perspective, I mean, I guess if somebody just didn't like my music,
It's fine.
know,
Not everybody likes the Beatles and the Stones, right?
Totally.
How is that possible? But I don't know. But
Yeah, I like the Grateful Dead, but some people flat out hate the Grateful Dead.
I'm not
with
a fan.
passion, you know.
I'm not a fan.
Right.
They've had a couple of songs that other people have covered that I've liked,
but notice how I'm not offended at all.
You
I just think
because it's
I'll see
personal
you
taste.
after outside there.
I think, yeah, I mean, you're a guitar player, you know what I mean? But I think as a producer, like, you know, I when I make my music, I write the lyrics, I, put all the drums, I put all the instruments, I do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I necessarily probably wouldn't be that offended if someone didn't like my music. But I think as artists, we project like our ego so much into our music, you know, that like it almost is a part of yourself. So it's like, this is me. Yeah. And you're looking at it like, this is me and this is everything. And then, then you don't like me. So you saying that you don't like the music is basically a
Almost
personal
like,
attack.
right.
It's basically me saying like, screw you.
true.
I don't like you at all.
Yeah.
Well, what I usually mean is I didn't feel anything when I listened to it. I didn't.
Right.
I wasn't grabbed by your voice. Your stories were fine. Your singing, your playing was fine.
Yeah, it didn't move you.
Didn't move me.
That's fair.
Music's meant to move me. And if it doesn't move me, I just, sorry,
Sure.
thanks for sending it. I appreciate it. But
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the reality. It's just like if you're trying to get a record label deal kind of thing, right? And you're sending your stuff out and sending the person that listens to it they've got to be
Objective.
moved.
And I think that intuition that is very important. And even just hearing that, like if I showed my music to somebody and they said, no, I don't like it because it didn't move me, that is going to have a huge impact on me going forward when I make my music. Because I'm going to go, okay, well, if that didn't move him, what can I write? What can I pull from my experience that is going to move people and is actually going to affect, someone emotionally? Because there was a long time when I wrote music, I didn't put my emotions into my music, because hip hop is some hip hop is like that, but a lot of hip hop is just more braggadocious and just skill based and stuff like that. Yeah, basically.
East Coast versus West Coast.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And so I didn't start from an emotional place. I started from trying to motivate people and spread a good message and show my skill and stuff, but not necessarily to bring out emotion. But I think, if you look at even all the popular hip hop songs of today, like there's so many just sad emo, like, about love and this and that or whatever, because it brings out emotion in people. It makes people feel something and relate to something, as opposed to not being able to relate to it.
I'm raising my hand. One of the biggest selling albums of the last decade. Name it.
One of the biggest selling albums?
Maybe I'll just help. Adele's 21.
Adele's
right.
21.
Think about that album if you've ever heard it. It's all heartbreak and emotion.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it appeals to people because it gets you right here.
Right.
You hear those songs, you go, oh, man.
Yeah, you can identify.
Yeah.
That's identifying
that kind of stuff speaks to me. That's
for sure.
If it's a local singer-songwriter, if it's a national singer-songwriter. Liz Longley, I mentioned her name earlier. Somehow she seems to write my heart. I don't know how she does that because we know each other, but she's like, wow, that's how I would like to say that. How do you do that?
It's amazing.
So it's about good songwriting for me. So.
Yeah. And if you never give someone that feedback of no, that didn't move me that much, then they're just going to keep making that same level of music that they're making. For so many years, my friends would just be like, yeah, you're great. And like, yeah, I was great. Compared to them, I was better at rapping than any of my friends ever were, for sure. But, it didn't give, like, now I go back and listen to that stuff and like, I think it sounds terrible. You know what I mean? But it's like,
probably.
But compared to what they knew, like, they just saw me doing it and they're like, oh, that's cool. But it's like, if you never get that feedback of like, no, this is not, up to industry standard, then you're never going to know. Because a lot of people just don't know.
There's a factor that my wife named. I'll let her keep the name. The know 'em factor. When you know somebody, the music that they make is actually better than it is.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry.
You're like, wow, I know this person and they made this?
Yeah,
oh my God.
Right. So you have a very hard time being objective about whether it's good or not.
That's a good point. That's a great point. The know 'em factor.
Know 'em factor. I know 'em.
I'm going to borrow that.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll
give your wife credit though.
Yeah,
it was nice of you to do that as well.
sure.
It is a good term. I I think that kind of distills it though, right? Like, if your music doesn't appeal to a curator, a radio curator, then it's just not going to appeal. And so you got to what's your plan B as an artist, right? You have to have, you have to continue to figure it out and how you're going to get your music out there. And maybe it's just, maybe you're not going to be a huge success, but maybe you're still going to have a successful career in your own right? Like, everybody's music career looks different anyway.
And maybe your local radio station isn't going to play your music, but maybe you could reach out to a local radio station in some other state that will, So don't limit yourself maybe to just, Ann Arbor's 107.1 or Detroit's whatever. Like if you that's what I think a lot of artists, and even me coming up, we're just had such a local mind state of just like, I have to grow my following in Ann Arbor, and then that's going to propel me farther. You know what I mean? When the reality is that doesn't have to be the way. And a lot of the times getting recognition outside of your hometown makes it a hell of a lot easier to get recognition inside your hometown. That's
good.
Mayor Hawthorne.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somehow he just magically emerged out of the scene, and I'm like, where the heck did he come from?
Yeah, or Wolfpack. Like,
right.
what is? Do you know? Like, I don't really know exactly. How they really got their steam in the beginning.
I'm not 100% sure either.
Well, I actually do have a little insight into that.
Yeah.
My understanding is that they made a record called
Sleepify. That's what it was, and then they got $20,000 and they did a whole free tour.
But people were playing that album.
It's amazing,
and it's
amazing.
There was nothing on it.
$20,000.
It was just.
Spotify did not like them very much.
Oh,
no,
Spotify
they took it
shut it down. Yeah,
but I mean, I actually had success with that
move.
same type of marketing where it's cut.
Right.
But nope, we're going now. We're going.
Yeah, that is cheating. I mean, and at the end of the day, like, what is that going to really do for you? But the Wolfpack thing was brilliant in a way because it was so unusual.
But they're great musicians and they deserve it.
They're killer.
They deserve what they're getting.
Awesome.
They're incredible.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And I mean, what they've done is incredible. I mean, they have no major label, they have no manager, and they're just raking in the dough. I mean, they sold out Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's a lot of money.
So primitive too. It's like you look at the website and go, "Who's running this thing?"
And their videos all look like they were shot in the 70s. I mean, they do it on purpose, but they're just. I think that is another good an important point is just how good of musicians they are. It just shines through anything. And also their personalities, like they're just you watch them and you feel good. Like they always seem like they're having fun and just like laughing and doing crazy. Like they brought their living room furniture to the stage at Madison Square Garden.
It's amazing. I love it.
Smart guys.
Yeah.
U of M grads. Thank you.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, so there's I mean, having lived in this area for so long, I've seen so much talent come through here, and I've seen talent leave and maybe come back, and
sometimes they don't come back.
Sometimes they don't come back.
Please come back.
But I think I appreciate your love for the area and for Ann Arbor and Ypsi and while we'll miss your voice on 107.1, maybe it'll be back there someday, but there's going to be other ways for us to hear you.
There is? Tell me.
Well, currently you're doing this thing, but we are. I think we can say that we're going to do some podcast takeovers right here on Grove Sessions with you, and
we should do that.
So excited! We're so excited. We're so not even just like we're so grateful that you're even here right now for this podcast. But to have someone with your level of experience coming in, and doing stuff with us, is just, I mean, we're just beyond grateful and excited to have you, doing this.
We're gonna make the lighting a little bit nicer in here too.
What's wrong with the lighting?
Well, it's just I don't know.
I can't see in the dark.
Well, it's not going to be dark, but I don't know. I have a lighting problem, I think.
It's okay. We're going to, it looks good, but we're already planning on outfitting the studios with like professional quality photography and video lighting, because we're
professional photographer right here.
Exactly. And we're bringing in, we're going to make this a space that photo and video people can come in and do, photo shoots,
Just have some
video
better
shoots
lighting,
as well. Because right now, I mean, we're for musicians, but I mean, now that we have the podcast room, it's really more of a creative space. And, we just really want to include the photo and video creatives as well. So, we'll have some sweet lighting in here.
We're not going to make it look like Joe Rogan's new studio, though.
No.
Yeah.
If Joe Rogan's listening, sorry, but
Sorry, Joe Rogan.
it doesn't look good.
It looks weird. It looks like they're like
Just
in
the
a
red
tunnel
lighting.
And,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the shape was
I'm
interesting
sure
to
it's
me, but
intentional on some
I
level.
just don't like the red lighting. I honestly think like our lighting here looks better than his lighting.
Well, sure. I guess I just want it to be slightly dimmer. That's my only problem. It's my only complaint. Kyla's like, but it's good for pictures, so
Yeah.
shush.
Shut your mouth.
But I think, but I'm excited. I'm excited that you're gonna come in and do some podcasting here and do some growth sessions, takeovers, and whatever else blossoms.
Yeah, we would love to
be very
just
cool.
give you, a platform to do whatever, anything that you want, really. So,
Yeah.
Gonna burp and fart. No, not gonna do that.
We're going full comedy now.
And
Is that what-
the another cool thing is, I mean, we just partnered with Leon Speakers.
Love that place.
And they're actually building a broadcast studio as well. And a venue that, is going to be totally set up with all top of the line live streaming equipment. We're going to start live streaming shows from in there, and we're also going to, have access to their broadcast studio and everything.
That's awesome. Can I bring artists in there?
Absolutely.
Can you sing for us?
Oh,
I believe
absolutely.
so.
That's what
Are we-
it's.
are
That's
we
what
allowed
it's
to
going to
do
be.
that?
That's what it's going to be.
They are an amazing company.
Really.
And they're just some amazing people that, not only own and run it, but the people that work there. A lot of musicians work there. Are you familiar?
The culture there is cool.
Very cool culture. Our core values and their core values fit very nicely together. And we just announced this fellowship that with their full support, amazing support from Leon Speakers for this fellowship. And we're going to have 3 artists that are going to be able to apply for this fellowship. So we're doing that with them, but we're also partnering for performances, as Max said. So
That's awesome.
I think
Yeah.
there's a real opportunity for you to be a part of that too. And
I actually have worked with them
Yeah.
in some capacity. We
Yeah.
didn't get this would
Well-
actually be the time that I would be doing a benefit for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. This month is when I would be doing
see,
it.
so 2020
I've done-
doesn't suck as much as we thought.
Yeah,
right?
but this right now I should be doing a benefit this weekend. I
Oh,
did two the last 2 years, and Leon Speakers was kind enough to let me use their space for free.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're amazing.
My first thought was to throw it at the Arc, but they can't really give me the venue for free, and so
Yeah.
Ethan was kind enough to say, "Do it here," and he
Yeah.
has a connection to it. So I got nice turnout. I had some really great musicians play both years.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to have done it again this year, but it's just not going to happen. And I don't know if I can do it next year or not either. We'll have to wait and see
Yeah.
if there's always going to be a need.
Well,
to do
setting
it.
up
Yeah.
I know for a fact that we could, set up some benefits with them. Even if it was like a live stream type benefit where we sold live stream tickets and stuff like that, and then had a very limited in person, thing. I mean, that's totally within the realm of
Good.
possibilities
Yeah,
of
let's hope
anything
it's
that
maybe.
we can do, and we get to decide what benefits we do. I mean, we
Yeah.
can do whatever benefits that we
can.
want to do.
We can. Yep. And we're open to that. So
And that's exactly
will
what we want to do.
definitely talk about that.
You've got my
in the
phone
very near
number.
future. We do. We know where to find you.
Right in front of you right
You
now.
might regret that. No, I'm just kidding.
Nope. I like to have purpose. Thanks for
Yeah,
giving me some purpose,
no,
Rick. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it too.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely.
a
Gives us all purpose. And working with people that have a like mind and love this community as much as we do. So
It's exactly what you were talking about, just like helping people, like
Yeah.
going full circle. Like we get great, we feel great when we try and help people in our community, and that's all we want to do, So
Yep.
we're so happy to be with like-minded individuals that want to do that as well.
As I am to be
Yeah.
happy to be with like-minded individuals,
Yeah.
discovering more about you guys. So this is awesome.
it's this has been a totally surreal interview because we've been talking on the phone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to hearing your voice on the radio, and now that I'm sitting in a studio with you and I'm hearing your voice
In your ears.
in my ears, it's crazy because you do have that great radio
Rick,
voice.
it's John.
How did you? In the middle of the night.
Oh, all of his dreams came true.
Drink from that can right now. I put something in there. my friend
It's
Dave
so
used
funny.
to jokingly used to say, you have that great voice for saying, "Hey, little girl, want some candy?"
Right? Oh, jeez.
No, I don't.
That's so
Don't
mean.
say that.
That's a mean thing to say
Dave.
to somebody that depends on their voice. But you do have a great radio voice. I've always enjoyed hearing
Thanks.
it, and thank you for lending your voice to our little show here. It's not, I guess it's not so little anymore. We reached
Yeah, I mean,
Tens of people.
No, we, in 2020, and I guess this is the first announcement of it, and, not bragging or anything. We just feel good about it, but we reached over 500,000 people with our social media in 2020.
Awesome.
Which just feels, we're super grateful for all the support that the community has given us this year.
super grateful.
Because, you guys that have been listening and supporting and sharing and liking and commenting on our stuff have literally put us in this opportunity to be able to do the type of things that we're doing right
and
now.
all the people that come into the studio and use the space and take care of the space. People take great care of the space, and it's amazing, and we love the community for that.
Can I ask a question related to
Absolutely.
that? We're sitting in a podcast studio that you guys obviously use every other week, right?
Yeah.
Somebody, like, if I had a friend that wanted to do a podcast, would I say, "Hey, Joe, come do a podcast at Grove Studios. You can rent the space." Is that
Absolutely.
that's an option?
Yeah,
Okay.
You go to the website grovestudios.space. You go to the podcast room.
We should announce our new pricing right now.
Oh, that's right. We just changed our pricing.
Yeah.
that's right.
It's free. No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, we actually, for the first month that we could fully operate, or it was actually August, but we did offer this podcast studio. It was totally free for the first
nice.
month, and we did have some takers.
Yeah.
But we did change the pricing. It's $15 or $20 an hour depending on the time of day. So there's like peak and off peak pricing.
3 in the
But-
morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
actually
off-peak.
a really
So that'd be like,
off-peak,
that's
so
15 an hour.
If you're a night owl, it's
Yep.
a great
Yep.
thing.
And the Rodecaster Pro has great preamps. These are great Rode microphones. I think these sound every bit as good as the Shure standard microphones that people are using in podcasting. They're Australian, but they're great microphones. And this is a very simple interface for anybody to use. It's very intuitive,
You got
not
the
super
instructions
complicated.
Right behind you, right?
Yeah, and we have sound effects too
We do.
that are not currently working because I didn't have them turned up.
Wow.
Oh, we
What do you know?
We do a comedy show or that kind of thing, so
Canned laughter.
just keeps canned laughter because you can't have a crowd right now. So
No,
we
we
just
can't.
do the canned laughter. But yeah, anybody, if you have a friend that wants to do a podcast, 24/7, we're
Yeah.
open 365 days a year.
It's a really cool place, people.
Appreciate it.
One thing we like to ask all of our guests on our podcast
That's
I'm
is,
afraid.
we just, lots of things are uncertain right now, in these times, but what do you think is certain? And it can be anything in your life or in the world.
Besides death and taxes, those two.
Yeah,
Those are certain.
those
I know they
certain.
are. Well, actually, maybe you know Steph Belcher. I have no idea.
Yeah, we do. We all
Absolutely.
know Steph Belcher.
Steph,
Yeah.
So Steph was teaching a class earlier this year geared towards many of my musician friends, and she wanted me to kind of sit in on the class and give her some opinions about it.
Yeah.
And I did. And the second week when she got into the bookkeeping part of the class, my eyes went, I like spreadsheets and numbers. Weird.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I always liked playing with Excel at home.
Yeah.
So what she pointed out to me in our conversation about that later is we're in a pandemic. We always used to say that hairdressers were never going to, worry about a recession because everyone needs to get their hair done.
Right.
Guess what?
Yeah.
It's not pandemic proof. Taxes are pandemic proof.
That's
Learn
true.
how to do taxes.
No doubt.
So I'm actually taking the H&R Block class because of that
Nice,
conversation,
nice, yeah.
just to see if I like it. And maybe
Sure.
I'll have that recession
Yeah, you have
slash.
multiple streams of income.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. I'm supposed to be doing my homework right now, but I'm here with
Yeah.
you. So hey, hi.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking me away from studying taxes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned stuff because spreadsheets, she helped me out with spreadsheets, if you can believe that.
She actually introduced me to Rick
At Dime?
at
That's right.
Dime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I'm here right now.
I wonder if she's
so
listening.
shout out to Steph.
Shout out to
Pregnant
Steph.
belly.
Belcher.
Hope your pregnancy's going well, Steph.
Yeah.
Without Steph, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
She's a great connector and a great human. I'm glad.
She is. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So
Well-
certainty is taxes, apparently, and
Yeah,
I'm not so
it
sure
is.
that
It is.
I'm
And,
gonna
and
love them.
learning how to do your taxes as an artist is definitely very important. So talk to Steph about that because she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about being an artist is you can deduct a lot of different things,
Absolutely.
in the name of your artistry.
Yep.
You know what else is certain? People tend to tie music with times in their life.
Yeah.
So if you've written a piece of music that really means something to somebody, 20 years from now, they can remember what it meant to them.
That's a really great point. Absolutely.
You hear a song and it takes you to a place.
Takes you right back to
Yeah,
that.
that's
that
so
place.
true.
Yep.
Somebody
That
posted
happens often.
Somebody posted about the Peter Gabriel "In Your Eyes," and it always takes them to the movie scene with John Cusack holding the radio above their head. Like it draws you into a place in your life.
Absolutely.
So, people who are making music, please continue doing so. I know it's really discouraging right now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of incentive for you to consider doing this as a career, but we need you.
We do.
We need your hearts to pour out to us and tell us what you're doing and how you're feeling, because it's gonna be the same things we're feeling. You just say it better than we do.
That's a great point. I love that. I think that's a great note to end on because
Yes.
he said it so well.
Yes.
John Bommarito, thank you for your time today.
pleasure, Rick.
And we look
Thanks.
forward to the projects that we have scheduled.
Let's do some stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Grove Sessions, very special edition with John Bommarito. JohnBommarito.com if you want to listen to some of his older interviews and some very memorable ones. Please go check that out. And we'll be back this Friday with Bloomin' Prajipi.
And we'll actually be here
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. How did
7
I forget
p.m.
about
on
tomorrow?
Thursday. We're going to have an in-depth podcast about our Amplify Fellowship that we just launched with Leon Speakers. So tune in for that.
Nice.
Thanks for reminding me, Max. Everybody have a great night.
Peace.